had Suratul Jinn, Suratul Prophet. But as I've been doing in the last few days, I'm going to go over all the other 8 sections, and today we will look at section 9. But I'll try and do it a little bit briefly, because I understand many of you have called me and said, you now know it, and that is phenomenal. But I'm still going to go over it, because Quran says enough of the dhikra. There is always benefit in repetition. So the sermon started off by saying, Ayyuhan nas, O people. Coming to you is a month, and it meets you with 3 things. You remember them? Barakah, Rahmah, and Maghfirah. Which was, Barakah is more than one deserves, like lots more. Rahmah was kindness, and Maghfirah was forgiveness. It tells us we are his guests. It says with every breath we take is declaring his perfection. Sleep is ibadah. Deeds are accepted. Du'as are answered. And then we're told, ask with the clearest of intentions, the most honest of intentions, the most cleanest of hearts, to be able to fast and to be able to do the tilawah of his book, which we talked about. The second part, we looked at 9 things we're supposed to do. And those were with our hunger and thirst, to remember the hunger and thirst of the day of Qiyamah. To be able to do sadaqah, to be able to honor our old, to be able to be kind to our young, to make sure that we keep our blood relations, our relations with all the people who are related to us by blood or by womb, to be able to mind our tongue, to be able to mind our eyes, to be able to mind our ears, and then finally to honor orphans. Those are the 9 things. In the 3rd section, we looked at doing tawbah, to repent for our sins. And I talked about dhanb, the sins that follow us like a tail. To do dua at the times of salah, and that's why the times were so important. So today, for example, the time for Fajr was 3:54. The time for Zohar is 1:06. The time for Asr is about 4:50, 4:52. The time for Maghrib is 8:17. And the time for Isha is about 9:30 or 9:33. If we're not praying at that time, at least to raise our hands in dua, because he says it's at that time when Allah looks at us with kindness. In the 4th section, we looked at doing istighfar and sajda, if you remember. And the most beautiful part where Allah swears by his izzat. Remember the way the Prophet put it, where he said that, وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَقْسَمُ بِإِزَّتِهِ. Allah swears by his might that Allah يُعَذِّبَ الْمُصَلِّينَ وَالسَّاجِدِينَ. He will never punish one who prays and one who does sajda, and he'll give a certificate from the freedom of the fire. In the 5th section, we looked at iftar. Giving one person iftar is like freeing a slave, and all our past sins are forgiven. The 6th section looked at good behavior, lessening the workload of those who work for us, not to hurt anyone, and to honor orphans, and then not to cut ties with relations. In the 7th section, we looked at salah. Lots of mustahab salah, and he said he would give us a certificate of freedom from the fire. Wajib salah, equivalent to 70 times more thawabs in other months. And then at the end he said lots and lots of salah, as much as you can, because salah is our connection to Allah. As-salatu mi'rajul mu'mineen, the Prophet said. Yesterday in the 8th section, we looked at one bit, which was if you were to recite, internalize, understand, apply and teach one ayah of the Quran in the month of Ramadan, it is the same as doing a whole Quran in other months. So it's not rocket science to be able to do that. But today we will look at the last part. And here he says, Ayyuhan nas, O people, inna anfusakum, oh sorry, we've missed it. Let's go again. Ayyuhan nas, inna abwab al-jinan, indeed the doors of Jannah, fi hadha shahri mufattaha, in this month are open. Fas'alu rabbakum, ask your Rabb, and la yughliqaha alaykum, that he should never close them for you. So he's telling us that the doors of Jannah are open, and we should say they should never ever close for us. So you know there are 8 doors of Jannah and 7 doors of Jahannam. Then he says, wa abwab an-niran, the doors of the fire are mughlaqa, they are closed in this month, in the month of Ramadan. Fas'alu rabbakum, ask your Rabb, and la yaftaha alaykum, that he should never open them for you. Wa shayatini maghlula, Shaitan is imprisoned. Fas'alu rabbakum, ask him, and la yusallitaha alaykum, that he should never open, never free Shaitan for you. So that's one thing. Now just a brief look at the 8 doors of Jannah and the 7 doors of Jahannam. Each of them has got a like it's got an inscription on them. Let me give you an example. So the first door of Jannah says that everything has a means of attainment. That means everything is something we can get to. And to be able to enjoy life, you should have 4 things. Contentment, to honor the right of others, to abstain from hatred or enmity, and to sit with Ahlul Khair. Ahlul Khair means people who are goodness, from whom you learn. So like that, there's an inscription on each of these doors, and maybe I will try and put it on the website so you can download it. At least you can see this. Let me give you the first door of Jahannam. I just gave you the first door of Jannah, and I told you there are 8 doors. The first door of Jahannam says, one who hopes in Allah is helped. One who fears Allah is safe. The one who is unsuccessful is the one who hopes in other people and fears other than Allah. So these inscriptions are really important to be able to read in connection with this khutbah or this sermon of the Prophet. And the final thing in this sermon is where Qala Amirul Mu'mineen. So Imam Ali alayhi salam stands up. فَقُمْتُ وَقُلْتُ. He said, I stood up and I said. So what did he say? He said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of God, مَا أَفْضَلُ الْأَعْمَالِ فِي هَذَا الشَّهْرِ. What is the best thing I can do in this month? What are the best deeds in this month? Can you imagine? The Prophet said, فَقَالَ. He said, Ya Abul Hasan, because that's the title for Imam Ali. He said, Ya Abul Hasan, أَفْضَلُ الْأَعْمَالِ. The best of deeds, فِي هَذَا الشَّهْرِ, in this month, is, can you guess? He says, Al-wara'u an maharimillah, that you keep away from that which Allah has made haram. Can you imagine, after all those things we did, 9 sections, so many things, he says that's the best thing you can do, to keep away from that which Allah has made haram. It's phenomenal. Really phenomenal. So that in essence is the sermon of the Prophet that he gave on the last night of Shaban to be able to introduce the month of Ramadan. So now back to Quran City, because at the end of the day, that's what Ramadan is about. It's about the Quran and nothing else. So let's look at the Quran. Remember, we did Quran City and we said it has 114 buildings. It will never grow. It will never downsize. The buildings, the length of the buildings is according to the number of ayat in that surah. We said the roofs were green and yellow. The yellow were Makki, the green were Madani. 86 Makki, 28 Madani. Makki talk about the why of religion. In other words, usul, in essence. Usul ad-din, if you want to call it. While Madani talk about the how of religion. Besides furu, also the akhlaqiyat, how you behave, all sorts of things. So they're more Makki than Madani. Makki revealed before Hijrah, Madani after Hijrah. So that was quite easy. Now when you look at the city, we had a city center in which we had 4 chapters that talked about the Quran, and we talked about those. Around that city center, we have 19 suburbs, and these suburbs are according to either the first word of that surah or a subject matter of that surah, and we put them together so it was easy to understand. To enter the city, you would have to do wudu. You would have to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You would say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and La ilaha illallah. All the suburbs were connected to the city center and to each other with M14, and that's a road network, which is the Masumin. To be able to understand the Quran, we need the Masumin. Now for each surah, we need to at least start off by knowing the key concepts, and that's what we did with Quran City Center. And we started off now looking at Qul Corner, which is on one corner of Quran City, and hopefully as the days go by, you'll be able to see it. We'll be able to do some presentations where you can see it. So Qul Corner has 5 chapters, or 5 surahs. You had Suratul Jinn, Suratul Kafirun, Suratul Ikhlas, Suratul Falak, and Suratul Nas. We looked at Suratul Kafirun and we looked at Suratul Ikhlas. And today we will look at Falak and Nas. Now these are Surah number 113 and 114, the last 2 chapters, 2 surah of the Quran. And they're known as Ma'udhatain. You know, you say A'udhu, I seek refuge. Ma'udhatain are the 2 protectors. That's 113 and 114, Falak and Nas. And both were revealed simultaneously together. And they're phenomenal surahs. So let's look at Falak first, okay? So Suratul Falak, known as, if you look at the general translation, it says daybreak. But the word Falak is to tear something up so the insides come out. So if in your mind you imagine a cushion, and you tore it and all the stuffing came out, that is falak. So the rays of the morning sun, as in when it comes, it tears through the darkness. So similar to khalaqa, which is to create, when life comes into existence by tearing out of another. So remember falaka? If you just remember the tearing out of the night, if you remember somebody ripped open the dark and light came out, that's falak. Now what is the focus of Surah Al-Falaq? It's protection against outer entities, something external. Both these surahs look at 5 shars. Shar means evil, something that harms, and it's protection, asking for protection from the 5 shars. And in this surah, we have 4 of those. So we're seeking refuge with Allah. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falak. Say, I seek refuge with the Rabb of Falak. Okay? So now let's see, what are the 4 things? Min sharri ma khalaq. So we're seeking for protection from the evil of creation. You see, the potential of harm from that creation. Let's look at a bee or a wasp or a snake. The bee or the wasp or the snake does not aim to cause us harm, doesn't have an intention, I'm going to go and harm this person, but it's in its nature to come and sting us or bite us. So when we say min sharri ma khalaq, we are seeking protection from that potential of creation that may harm us. Then we're seeking protection from intense darkness. Can you read the surah with me? قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. You're seeking protection from the night when it covers intense darkness, when there's no visibility, when you can't see. And that darkness can be ignorance as well. It could be obstruction as well. The third one, and that's quite a one that everybody worries about. Let's start again. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. And we seek refuge from those who blow on knots. My goodness. Blowing on knots is like black magic, but it's also blowing on the knots of relationships. So it's really important we understand that. Let me take an example. Say, for example, I have a friend called Zinat, okay? Very good friend of mine. So if I have a good friend called Zinat, and I'm very good friends with her, say somebody came up and said, oh, I understand you're friends with Zinat. And I say, yeah, I am. And they would say, just be careful. Now that put, somebody blew on that knot of friendship. They didn't say anything. All they said was be careful. That means you're blowing on that knot of that relationship. So you're asking Allah for refuge from that. More so refuge from us being like that and blowing on the relationships of others. Black magic is powers whose functions we cannot comprehend and we don't want to. So we're asking for protection. And then the last one, which is the most potent one. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. And we're asking from protection from the jealous one when he is jealous. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. Jealousy is just not wanting what somebody has, but wanting to destroy them as well. And we're asking for protection. Read this all the time. Now let's look at the second one, which is Surah Nas. Nas means people, human beings, basically. So the first one, Falak, was protection from outer entities. The second one is protection from inner entities, what's inside us. Probably the most deadliest of them. The waswas, it's called waswas. It's that subtle negative whispering that goes on in our heads. And it's probably the greatest of jealous ones is known as shaitan. So he whispers in our ears. Now in Ramadan he's locked up. So therefore it must be something in ourselves if it happens in Ramadan. So we say, do you know Surah Nas? Can you read it with me? قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ Nas, Malikin Nas, Ilahin Nas. So we're asking for protection, taking 3 attributes of Allah. We're saying Rabb, and we talked about Rabb, nourisher, cherisher, sustainer, master, the one who takes us to our full potential step by step. Malik is king. Ilah is God. So we're saying we want protection from what? Min sharril waswasil khannas, from the evil of the waswas of khannas. Khannas is one who whispers and then runs away. That's called shaitan. So we're asking for that protection. So what is this waswas? And I'll go through it a little bit briefly, but maybe you can read up about it. Waswas is fed by rivers. If you can imagine, waswas is something that needs feeding. It needs to grow. And what does it grow with? Greed is one thing. There's 9 rivers that feed it. There's greed, there's expectations, there's worldly desires, acquisitions, that means wanting more and more and more, affliction, sometimes when something happens and it's not very good, we start thinking different things in our head, arrogance, when you belittle others, it makes it grow, love of the world, stinginess. So these are some of the things that make our insides not at peace, and we're seeking refuge. So whenever you feel like you're just not feeling good inside, you're thinking bad about someone, you're thinking bad things about everything that's going around, recite Suratul Nas. In fact, recite Suratul Falak and Nas together. So 5 shars, the potential harm of others. Darkness when it covers. Blowing on knots, which is whether it's relationships or it's blowing on black magic knots, something we don't understand. 5th one, the jealous one. And 6th one, that inside waswas, that inside feeling that's not very nice. So, inshallah, these are mawdatain. You will recite it all the time, especially before you go to sleep. I'll tell you what my grandma used to do. So every night before we slept, my grandma used to say, recite Ayatul Kursi, recite Suratul Qadr, and recite the 4 calls. And then she would clap, literally clap. And she would say, wherever this clap is heard, it is under protection. So if you don't have an alarm system, she would say, this is like a force field that covers you and makes you safe. And you will find you'll sleep at night without having to worry at all. And it really did work. So try. Maybe you can clap too. And maybe you can recite those 5 surahs before you go to sleep. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll look at Surah Al-Jinn. Oh my God, that's really exciting, isn't it? Today we will start with another dua. Yesterday we finished Ya Aliyu Ya Azim, and today we'll start another small dua that we recite in the month of Ramadan. And most people know it as Allahumma Adkil. But in essence, it's a dua to recite after every salah, and it's praying for others. But remember, just praying doesn't work. It's dawa and dua. That means we do something, then we ask him, because it works hand in hand. It just doesn't work like that. So let's look at some of the things in this dua, and we'll continue throughout the next few days. So it starts off with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allahumma adkil ala ahli al-qubur as-surur. So, oh Allah, instill happiness into the people of the graves. So when the Prophet was asked about this, he said, send gifts to your dead. How do you make somebody happy? By smiling at them, by salam, by giving them a gift. Even the gift of a smile. So when he was asked, what gifts can we send to them? And he would say, give sadaqah on their behalf. Pray for their forgiveness. Recite Quran for them. Yasin, Mulk, there are quite a lot of surahs that are recommended. Recite salawat as much as possible. So, for example, he said on the day of Qiyamah, when the deeds shall be weighed, I will be present there. If a person's bad deeds weighs more than they good, I will bring the salawat which he recited upon me and my Ahlul Bayt to increase his good deeds. So if you remember people in your family who have died, anybody, recite lots of salawat for them. You know, we could do their prayers, their fasting, their hajj, their sadaqah, good deeds in their names, and they all get there. They all get there. So the moment you say Allahumma adkil ala ahli al-qubur as-surur, you will do the same thing together. You will do something for it. Right, the next one. Allahumma aghni kulla fakir. Oh Allah, make all the poor people rich. Basically saying, make rich every poor person. It doesn't work like that. It's not like Allah is going to send down lots of things from the skies, because we are His agents. We are the people who, as human beings, we help each other. Let me give you an example, which I absolutely adore, and it makes more sense in the month of Ramadan. It is a bit sad, but this was when Imam Hassan and Hussein had just buried their father. So remember Imam Ali, you know, when he died, 21st of Ramadan, right? So they just buried him. And they were coming back from where they'd buried him in Kufa. It wasn't somewhere that was known then. And they were coming back and they heard someone cry out, and he said, "Where are you? O you who visited and had mercy on me. O you who sat with me, where are you? Haven't seen you for 3 days." So they went to where this voice was coming from. And it was a man who was really ill. Nobody wanted to go near him because he had a disease that nobody liked. And they went to him and they said, "What is the matter?" And he said, "There was somebody who used to come to me. He used to dress my wounds. He used to feed me. He used to sit with me. And when I used to ask him, 'Who are you?' he would say, 'I am like you. I sit with you. I'm a miskeen. I'm a fakir, just like you. And I sit with you.' And he said, 'I haven't seen him for 3 days. He hasn't come.' And they told him, and he said, 'But I know one thing, his voice was like yours.' He's telling Imam Hassan and Hussein. And they said, 'That was our dad who used to come and sit with you. But he's no longer here.' And the man said, 'Please take me to his grave.' When they took him to his grave, it is said that he actually fell down on the grave and he died there. That's what we need to do. Make rich every poor person. We need to help. That is the way we do things. It's another story that comes to mind, and I'll end with it. Is where Imam Zain al-Abidin was with his companions, and a person who was really in need, was there. Imam gave him everything he had, and then he kissed his hand, and he said, "You are my Mohsin. You have done such a great favor on me." When he went away, the companion said, "Surely you did a favor to him. You gave him your money. Why did you kiss his hand and say that you are my Mohsin?" Now I'll paraphrase this. Imam said, "Who is there who will take what little I have, multiply it immensely so many times, and put it in my account with Allah without even charging me? Who would do that? Surely he is my Mohsin." So when we read, "Allahumma aghni kulla fakir," really, when we give, the person who takes it is doing us a massive favor by taking it. Let us pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq to be able to understand these du'as and act upon them. Before I end, we're going to end with a Surah Al-Fatiha. Like I said, for all those who are ill, for those who have died, for those who are in trouble, and then we will read the dua for protection. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. لي خمسة أطفي بها حر الوباء الحاتمة المصطفى والمرتضى وأبناهما والفاطمة. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, I'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. To the people of the graves. So when the Prophet was asked about this, he said, "Send gifts